Hi everybody. Today we're going to be looking at what plagiarism is, what it isn't, what you are allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, and kind of some strategies that you can use to avoid unintentionally plagiarizing on your assignments. So first off, I just want to start with a quick definition of plagiarism. This is the definition you'll see here from the Academic Integrity Policy. It's the unacknowledged adoption or reproductions of ideas, words, or statements of another person, including classroom peers. And there are just a couple of things I want you to note about this policy, or about this definition. One is that it says nothing about intent. So this is just like doing your taxes. If you make a mistake, and it was an honest mistake, you still have to pay a penalty. The burden is on you. And the second thing here is that this covers words and ideas. And that becomes very important because this means that you have to acknowledge any time you use one or both of those. So in other words, if you acknowledge that you're using someone's ideas but you use their words to do it, it does still count as plagiarism. And so as we go through, we're going to cover both types of things you need to cite, when you use someone's ideas and when you're using their words as well, and how you need to acknowledge those two things separately. So first scenario is when you are using somebody else's words exactly. Okay. So if you are copying somebody else's words verbatim, meaning word for word, you have to include quotation marks, you have to cite their names, their year, the year of publication, and the page number. And this is an example of how you would do this in APA style. So you'll notice that the quoted part is in quotation marks, but not the whole sentence, and that the citation goes outside the quotation marks. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that if you copy verbatim, it really does have to be verbatim, meaning identical. So you kind of have to go one or the other. You either totally rewrite stuff or you quote it exactly. But you can't just change one or two words. Because if you do that, it's no longer a direct quote, but it's not a paraphrase either. So if you're quoting exactly, you've really got to quote exactly. And keep in mind here that, again, if you were to have that exact sentence above without the quotation marks, that would still be plagiarism. Because even though I would have a citation, right, I'd have, the author, page number, all that, what I would be telling the world is, hey, everybody, this was Nevid's information, but my words. And that would be a lie. So that would still constitute plagiarism. Okay, so that's direct quotes. As a general rule, you have to use quotation marks when you're copying 3 or more words from the original text, but there are a couple of exceptions here. Okay, one is proper names. So the name of the country we live in is the United States of America. That is the name of it. You don't have to quote it. It's a proper noun. You don't have to go and find synonyms for united or anything like that. Same thing if you're writing a paper and there is a name of a theory or a name of a concept, you don't have to use quotes for that name. You also have to, you do have to use quotation marks for even one word if that word is particularly striking. So if it's important to know the exact word that a person used, or if that word is just very unusual and you want to make it clear that that was the word that somebody else had used. And the other thing to keep in mind here is that in this class, you should be avoiding direct quotes at all costs. The only time you really want to use them is when there is just no way to reword the original without either changing or diluting the meaning of the original. So on the handout I gave you in class, we talked about Martin Luther King's statement about the Emancipation Proclamation. If someone were to paraphrase it by saying, oh, he said the Emancipation Proclamation was a big deal. Well, yeah, that is basically what he was saying, but a big deal is very different from a momentous decree that came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. So that's an example where using the original wording might be particularly important.